Welcome to the Economic Justice Law Review, the online repository for scholarship relating to race, economics, and law. Here we are going to give a brief explanation of the categories in which we are going to file scholarship on race, economics, and law. The overall rubric is what I call asymmetrical market imperfections. So that is the overarching theme that racism, group subordination, gender discrimination, any type of group subordination can be described in economic terms as asymmetrical market imperfections. And basically, what we're saying is that under neoclassical theory, that the free market requires it can't exist without everyone being a profit maximizer, with everyone having the ability to enter into and leave any market they choose. That's called perfect competition. The third factor is, or the third precept is perfect information, that you know everything there is to know about the goods and services that are available, and that there aren't any transaction costs, no transaction costs. So profit maximization, perfect competition, perfect information, and no transaction costs. Now, those aren't our categories because here's the problem. We know that everyone is not perfectly rational, that everyone doesn't maximize every single cent. We wouldn't sell our children for just the right price, right? So even though these are requirements or precepts or assumptions of the free market, we know that they don't exist perfectly. We know that everyone cannot enter into any market they choose. As far as there's so many items with regard to capital, whether it be human capital, intelligence, social capital, and especially financial capital. We know that everyone cannot enter into every market. Perfect information, that's easy. We know that information cannot be perfect. And we know that there are all types of transaction costs, externalities such as taxes, number one, intentionally, and then pollution on the other hand. And even the government decides, or we as the people through our court cases and tort in criminal law, we decide what extra punishments that you may get based on top of a particular transaction so that can be more fairly distributed. So even though we have these concepts of perfect profit maximization, perfect information, no transaction costs, we know that those things are imperfect. And not only are they imperfect, we know that they are asymmetrically imperfect when it comes to race, gender, sexual orientation. I'm going to focus on race here, but it could be transported to any type of group subordination. But we know that not only is everyone is not in tune to profit maximizing every single dollar and cent. We know that doesn't exist, but we also know that that one group is encouraged or discouraged to participate in economic transactions, to participate in the United States marketplace more than others. And we could even look at, let's say, hate crimes and whatnot as those that are designed to discourage Black folks from even participating or joining in the game to begin with. And that's heavily related to perfect competition or imperfect competition, or as we're going to describe, asymmetrically imperfect competition. The idea that discriminatory laws, affirmative action, the Civil Rights Act, all of those things work to level the playing field as far as entering into market. But we know that still, without capital and the racial wealth gap, that there is still asymmetrical market imperfections, and therefore that's how we're going to see structural or institutional racism recreate itself, right? And same thing with information. Information is supposed to be perfect. We know everything about the goods and services that we purchase, but we know we don't, and we know that there are asymmetries in information. As a matter of fact, economists themselves talk often about the asymmetries in information. Well, when it comes to race, we also know that there is an asymmetrical imperfection with information as far as the information provided to Black folks through education, through Eurocentric education, through the school to prison pipeline, and also as far as the information that is available about Black folks. So the stereotyping and the myth of Black inferiority are economic concepts, or they can be described economically as asymmetrically imperfect information. And as far as these asymmetrical market imperfections that perpetuate structural or institutional racism. And then last, there's transaction costs. So we know, again, there are taxes, there is pollution. So there are transaction costs and externalities that relate to our goods and services that we buy. And yes, again, that they are asymmetrically distributed. So we are going to talk later. We're going to talk a lot or publish, represent articles that describe asymmetrically distributed transaction costs. So as far as environmental pollution or environmental racism, those are transaction costs that we argue, or scholarship will argue, is placed more prevalently or predominantly or disproportionately in Black neighborhoods. Again, I'm a critical race tax theorist, so we can describe how certain tax laws are also asymmetrically distribute the cost of society on from wealthy and white to poor and Black, right? And that's where we see policing for profit, civil asset forfeitures, and all these informal. But we can even add soda taxes and other types of excise taxes that are being levied on urban communities. So this rubric of asymmetrical market imperfections is going to be used as a gathering and collating structure so that we can take race economic law scholarship from wherever it's published in law reviews or economic journals or what have you, bring it here and categorize it in a way that can be understandable and represent how in which racial phenomena is not just abstractly unjust, not is only is it an affront to dignity, not only can it be an affront to liberty, but we want to show a little more precisely how these racist phenomena have economic impact and a redistributive effect by describing it in terms of asymmetrical market imperfections. Thank you.